Welcome to James Hill TV, where we talk money, marketing, and motivation. I'm your host, James Hill, CEO of Black Millionaires. And today we got a very special guest, my guy, Cam Webb, a real estate advisor, became a multi-millionaire at the age of 30, became a millionaire at the age of 26. So he got a lot of gems he going to drop in terms of mindset, entrepreneurship, and he's an expert in the commercial real estate, specifically multifamily, right? We all stay in apartments. We need to learn how to buy them. So this is the guy who's going to help us and educate us on that, on just the mindset of acquiring and being someone who can actually build wealth. And this is somebody I look up to in terms of real estate and just life in general because, I mean, I'm 27. So he became a millionaire at 26. So it's some things I need to do so I can make sure by the time I'm 30, I'm a multimillionaire, or at least, close to it. So, Cam, I really appreciate you for coming on here and educating me and educating my community, man, because this is definitely big.
Hey, it's an honor and literally my pleasure to do so. It's been a great last couple of days getting to know you.
Yeah.
And, we've been talking over the phone last week. So it's literally a pleasure to be here. And, I'm still learning from you as well. Like, I'm not really big into social media.
Right.
So you're a savant in that space to be able to grow and do what you've done in the short period of time you have.
Yeah.
And then beyond that too, it's more so I love what you're doing and I love what the platform. You're normalizing the financial literacy and those discussions within the Black households.
Yeah.
So that's something that hasn't happened, and it's just now starting to happen. So I applaud you for that, and I'm here to help however I can.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay, so self-made millionaire at 26. Most people always talk about I want to be a millionaire by 30. You became a multimillionaire by 30. Let's go back before the millions, before any of that. What was Cam Webb like, growing up? How did you grow up? Did you have a family of entrepreneurs? Is it somebody you looked up to? Like, how did you even get into the whole financial literacy, real estate? How did you get into all of that?
For sure. So I was actually like the first real entrepreneur to, I would say, work for myself in that sense in my family. My dad's a self-made man. He was able to get a football scholarship and go to Brown University, but came from more humble beginnings. But he was able to use that network that he gained in Brown to then get him a good job. But he was taught, hey, go get your education, get a good job, work your way up the corporate ladder.
Right.
And that's really what the Black community, and it's a theme in our community.
Yeah, for sure.
But he did that, and he provided a phenomenal life. So, we were really like upper middle class growing up, and I was very privileged. I had, a lot of the basic necessities, and then some.
Right.
But they also put me in a space where, we were in an affluent neighborhood and surrounded by people with real wealth.
Right.
We upper middle class, but the exotic vacations and all the time and the extra beach houses and the different type of crazy cars that other people had, we didn't. And so, it was just like that in itself was an education and a privilege to be around that, to be able to learn and pick that up. So, how did it all start? He did a great job in providing that in the start. But the one thing too that he didn't really know and wasn't taught was how to sustain that wealth.
Right.
So he created it, and he was able to make a good amount of money, move his family out to the burbs,
Right.
and provide a great lifestyle. But in 2000, really the financial crisis, '07, '08, things changed, and he was invested poorly. So things changed. He stopped working, and on top of that, we lost pretty much everything.
Right.
So in high school, like towards the end, 2009, things really started to shift. And my parents wouldn't talk about it as much, but I had a sense of it.
Exactly. You at this point, you're old enough to know, like, okay, he had a good job. We're living good, upper middle class. Like, I always had the things I need. Now, I'm not able to get those things now. So you're definitely old enough to understand at that point.
and my mom, was working, and she was in the hospital and stuff like that at that point too. Working in the hospital, she wasn't sick.
Okay, yeah, I was just about to say, what's going on with that? Like,
But no, I mean, at that point, I had to make a decision and be like, okay, what type of lifestyle do I want to live? And also, at that point, I need to really get focused and start to help. Because my parents were able to provide such a great life for me, and the last thing I wanted to see them was working until they were in their 80s, 90s.
Right.
I didn't want to see them in the grocery store. Or,
Yeah, at Walmart, checking people bags and stuff, and it's like, and nothing's wrong with the person who's working there. But
nothing's wrong with
if
that.
I
Right.
have any say so in my grandmother or my parents' lifestyle, I don't want, I wouldn't want my parents, working there and having to work there. If they want to work there, they can. But yeah, I understand where you coming from that perspective.
Oh yeah, and so really, I would say I got my first job, and so I needed to work and needed to kind of provide for college because what my dad wanted to do was he wanted to pay for all me and my brother's college. And in that scenario, or just kind of life hit us in a different way, and it's like, okay, maybe we can't really pay for college, so we need to figure it out, whether it be by financial aid or just me paying for it. And so, I got into good college. I got into University of Virginia, and basically in 2009, I needed to work. So a friend of mine hit me up and he said, hey, there's this job. It's selling kitchen cutlery. Like, I was like, that sounds kind of goofy.
Right.
But he's like, I get paid $12 per appointment I go on. And I'm like, okay, so that sounds better.
Yeah.
So if I do 10 appointments in a week, then, that's $120.
Right.
And so that was, actually my first job. And so when I got to there and I got to the interview, I learned that, this is a sales job. And it's going out and trying to sell the kitchen cutlery. But if you get the higher of two numbers. You either get that, appointments, the 10 appointments or whatever, like
right.
the $12, or you get your commission on it. So,
right.
And the commission is a larger number if you actually can hit your sales.
Right.
So, I saw that, and in the kind of training process, I also was sitting there thinking like, I mean, I know enough people or I, between my network of sports, of, school, of my siblings, sports and school and everybody,
Right.
I literally reached out to everybody and hit everybody up to set up, meetings.
Right.
And so I threw my all into that. And in the first 30 days, I made $10,000 selling kitchen cutlery.
At 18.
At 18.
Okay.
And so that was, I was then, able to see, oh shit, like I can make real money at a young age. I don't need to be in my 40s or 50s.
Right.
And then as I continued to work, there was a certain point where I was doing $1,000 a day in kitchen cutlery.
Wow.
So,
that's a lot of money, man, at 18, 19, bro. I don't know what I would have did with $10,000 or, $20,000 at 18. The most I ever made in one day at 18 was like, I made like 2,500. But I was at that time I was gambling, like I was shooting dice, so that don't count, right? That's not really a skill, right? But
right.
Okay, so you're 18, 19, making this amount of money. So do you stay in sales? Like, why didn't you stay at that company? What happened?
I love sales, but I didn't want to be selling kitchen cutlery forever.
Right.
But in that time, I think something to focus on, and that could be of real value, is learning how to budget. Yeah. So in that period of time, I was making a lot of money, and as an 18-year-old kid, like I'm going and just buying a whole bunch of shit that I don't even need. So
like, well, I mean, what you buying?
So for instance, I'm driving by the mall, hungry. Oh, let me pop in the food court, and I come out of the mall with after spending 2 G's on on some bullshit, some like Armani or some brand name clothing,
right?
And then I might be buying like a massage chair or some shit, like Like, I don't need this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just doing it because I think I can, and I'm like, okay, I'll just make it back tomorrow.
Yeah, you rationalize it, and you know that money can stop. Just like you can make $10,000 in a month, you can also make two. And I think that's a big problem, especially with entrepreneurs, and people like if you work in sales, you're like a hybrid entrepreneur because you got to go out and you eat what you kill. So it's sales and entrepreneur are like cousins, right?
Yeah.
That's like they grew up in the same household basically, but I mean, you making this amount of money and you always think you're gonna make it. And that's one thing I had to learn. Like, hey, let me structure my lifestyle and my business to where if we only make $5,000 a month, like it's okay. Like the fire is gonna get lit under me and my employees, because we definitely we're not in business to make $5,000 a month, right? We're trying to make a lot of money so we can grow and expand the company. But I only need to make $5,000 to stay in business. Like I think that's really big for entrepreneurs and people coming up is, you should live below your means and you should
100%.
budget. So how did you learn how to budget?
It was my manager at the time, and so she had $100,000 in her, saved up.
Wow.
And she was paying for her younger sister college, and it was there that I was just like, how do you just so if I want $100,000 saved up, I need to make basically 150,000 at the time,
Right.
$50K for my cost of living, and then an extra 100K. Oh shit, you have taxes too.
Right.
Let me
Uncle
factor
Sam
that
gonna
stuff
get,
in there.
he gonna for sure get it.
So, I literally had to sit down and budget. Hey, what am I spending on my rent? What am I spending on my food for the week, and then the month? What am I spending on my utilities? And just literally break down your costs of living to be at a place where if I want to save X amount, and I think that everybody should be looking to save at least $1,000 a month. Most people don't have shit for savings.
Right.
They save nothing.
Yeah.
And actually, most people aren't. A lot of people are in credit card debt.
Yeah, and I think people, one thing that's important is they try to save last. So I think saving should be in your budget. And one thing I talk about is like, what's your freedom price? How much does it cost you to live without making any money? Right? You don't got to make no money, so that means you're free. But if you have to work and have to make money, you're not free. So you have to go to this job you probably hate, or you have to, take on clients in your business that you don't really want to work with because you need the money. That's because your lifestyle is too high and you don't know your freedom price. So that's one thing I tell people is budget, understand this is how much I need to live. This is how much I need to live the lifestyle I want. Those are two different things. Like it might cost me as a single black man, meaning I'm not married, I ain't got no kids, living on my own, don't got too many responsibilities. It might really take me $2,000, to live, right? Just live, pay my rent, pay everything. But my lifestyle, I might want a $3,000 or $4,000 lifestyle. Nothing's wrong with that. But I gotta know both price. I mean, I gotta know both of them. I gotta know how much my lifestyle is costing me and how much it's costing me to actually live. And I think that's very important. And you learned that lesson at 18. It took me to probably about 20, 22, 23 when I really started earning money. But that's still really young. Yeah.
And so I think that's just something that needs to be talked about, and taught to us in high school.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see, actually your platform's doing just that.
Yeah.
So, literally budgeting is super duper important. And that's just the backbone of your financial freedom mission.
Right.
Is, the budget. And again, paying yourself, which is in your savings, you pay yourself. You got to prioritize saving, paying yourself every month. And so, try to save at least $1,000. What I say, if you can save more, then save more. But if you're making, $40,000, $50,000 a year, and it might be a little tough, but you can try to save that $1,000. It's feasible.
So you're 19 at the time. You're working in sales, or so you're still working in sales at 19. So you worked there for what, about a year?
A year. I did really well where they wanted me to come back and teach people how to sell. Okay. So they said, hey, we want you to come back and run the Peachtree County branch office for Vector Marketing. So I was Mr. Cutco, during that time, and it was actually, they had me go through a year of management training. Yeah. Where I learned how to motivate people, how to delegate,
Build a team.
and build a team. So in that time, I probably hired, trained, and managed a sales team of 60 people at
Wow,
19
at
years
19.
old.
And did everybody know you was 19?
I told them at the end of the training, and like, to be honest, I lost credibility when I
Yeah.
told them. I thought it was going to be inspiring and moving and motivating,
Yeah,
but
did
it
the exact
backfired.
opposite. Yeah.
You know, so that's just something also too, just being a young business owner, that I've had to figure out, and it's just also you have a business relationship and then you have a personal relationship.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to just not say anything at all
Hmm.
because, that didn't happen to me before. Like, thinking I'm saying something good, like, oh yeah, I'm 22, I'm 25, I'm 27, and it's like, and your clients are, 15 years older than you. That might can rub them the wrong way. Some people get inspired. Like, everybody's
Hmm.
not a hater, but some people like, I don't want no 23-year-old telling me what to do with my business, like, because especially in our community, we value age, respect your elders. You're always taught that, right? But in business, age and how long you've been doing something means nothing now because technology moves so fast.
Hmm.
And in 18 months, one technology might be obsolete compared to what we're doing now and with the internet and all things like that. So, you told them you're 19. It rubbed them the wrong way. And then what do you do? So why do you leave?
It was the end of the summer, and so
Okay.
I ran it for just the summertime. I found that I like, kind of running my own salesperson, kind of just my own individual team,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being the whole branch manager. So I did find that management wasn't necessarily for me on that large scale,
Mm-hmm.
but I did take a lot of key, takeaways with, that, which is delegating, and motivating, and just learning how to kind of push people to achieve their goals. Where it's helped me down the road in later in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But that was 19, and then my sophomore year, I was working a whole bunch of other jobs. I worked at like Bed Bath and Beyond and Foot Action,
Yeah.
and always doing sales, and pushing it forward there. But I also kind of always had a different mindset in college where a lot of people would pregame and you go out and you're partying, and my pregames were a bit different. Especially actually really when the Social Network came out, that movie on Facebook
Yeah.
and Mark Zuckerberg. And that was another example of a young guy that was able to, really scale a business and make it
Right.
and make real money.
Right.
And so that was inspiring to me when like one of my boys, where we just like would pregame and we'd literally just talk about business ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd have brainstorm sessions, and that was just very valuable of having those brainstorm sessions and then trying to execute. We tried to start probably 3-4 businesses in that time.
Right.
We failed at every single one of them, but
Y'all learned so much in the process.
we learned so much in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's at Google. He had the Wharton MBA and
Oh,
Google,
okay.
and he's crushing it in his space. He's buying real estate and doing his investments and on a VC, and he
Right.
has
Right.
all that going on. And I'm in the real estate space, but we both took a lot of that kind of insight gain, and we grew from them.
Right.
You grow from the failure, so it's never a true failure.
Yeah.
And just a lot of people are just afraid to put themselves out there, but you can't be afraid to do that.
Mhm.
Like literally in my job today as a broker, I think I get turned down for a living. That's
Right.
what I do. So I literally take that into every aspect of my life, but I get turned down for a living, and 9 out of 10 phone calls, I'm getting the no.
All right.
But that one phone call that gives me the yes, that's another deal, and
Right.
that's another client that I can help build. And then that client talks to their friends,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of keeps on as a snowball. It just keeps on multiplying
Let's
and
take a
building.
step back. So, how did you initially get into real estate, specifically commercial real estate?
So I got an internship in college, actually from my boy who's a year ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
He interned at UBS,
Mhm.
and that was in the wealth management division. And
Mhm.
so it's wealth management, a little bit of investment banking, but really wealth management.
Mhm.
And so I did the internship. I learned about the stock market. I learned about financial advisors and what that business is.
Right.
Made a bunch of cold calls, and it was great just kind of learning that wealth of information, that wealth of knowledge. But kind of towards the end of it, I was asking my mentor at the time. I was like, hey, I think I want to get into the business. What do you think? He's like, this business is cool, but it's not the same as it used to be.
Right.
So, stock brokerage and investment banking and stuff like that, with all the new rules and regulations with like Dodd-Frank, it was different. So it's a lot harder to make it in that business.
Mhm.
And he was just like, hey, here's another business you should check out. It's commercial real estate. And he said that he had a couple friends that did it, and it took a little while to build their business up, but they're crushing it at this point. So
Mhm.
he highly encouraged me to do that. And I took the same exact approach that I do with everything when I'm like trying to figure out a new opportunity or a new venture or a new business. And I researched. First you kind of got to get a baseline of information.
Mhm.
So I went and went on blogs and stuff like that. But two, I researched all the all the top commercial real estate brokerage companies.
Right.
And there wasn't even a lot on it, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
But I found like the top 10 in the nation. And I wrote down basically researched who was the manager in the DC metro market for
Right.
each one of those. Put together a list, and then I started making cold calls out of college.
Right.
Hey, my name's Cameron Webb. I'm getting ready to graduate in the spring, and wanted to sit down and grab coffee with you to learn a little bit more about the business.
Right.
Literally the first cold call that I made, I got lucky being the first.
Mhm.
But the first cold call I made was the company who ended up hiring me,
Right.
and they're like, "Holy shit! Like you're cold calling me from college."
Yeah, you got potential in this business because those are the money makers, the people who's willing to pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm. We need to sit down. We need to talk further.
Mhm.
So after a couple conversations, I went and sat down and met with them. Still didn't know jack shit about the business, like
Right.
just barely anything. But I just knew that this was a space that you can earn your financial freedom.
Right.
And also like I had a different mindset with what financial freedom was. And for me, kind of coming from a place where my family had, kind of gotten to a place where, okay, like we're gonna take care of the kids' college tuitions,
Mhm.
and then it couldn't really happen anymore. I wanted to be able to pay for my future kids' college tuitions before they were even born.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's financial freedom to me
Mhm.
at the time. And so got the job, and then immediately got on, more research and hey, what are some books I need to read and check out? So read a couple different books that I was recommended at the time,
Mhm.
and then also got on a whole bunch of blogs. Like the thing that didn't exist before and that exists now is we have the internet.
Yeah, we got
And
LinkedIn. We got all these other professional sites where you can go and connect with these executives
you
or
have
managers. Yeah.
access. And so like I got on there and I was able to connect with a couple people who I was able to then do some work, some business with.
Mhm.
Like when in my last semester of college before I really started into the brokerage role.
Right.
And so that was instrumental in me just kind of learning the hustle and bustle of it too.
Mhm.
I was able to do one deal in college where I would have made $15,000,
Right.
and that would have been great. But I wasn't very knowledgeable on it and didn't know how to check to make sure it closed or not.
Yeah.
But I got taken advantage of on that first deal by a guy in like the wholesale flipping, contract flipping space.
Yeah.
And so,
So he basically took your $15,000.
yeah, I mean,
Essentially,
he took
with you
it.
knowing your knowledge now, he basically took advantage of you
He
at
took
that
it
time.
and told me it didn't close. And it's
Uh,
okay now.
do you know? Do you
I
still know him?
I
or-
know him. I've seen him on like on a friend of mine's like page who works with this guy.
Okay.
But
I mean, he about to regret that now, but we gonna
yeah,
digress.
I mean, it's all about relationships.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
literally,
yeah.
you have one name in the industry,
Hmm.
and so at the end of the day, you got to be, take a long-term mindset with relationships and how you want to treat people.
Yeah,
Because you don't do people dirty because you never know, what they grow into.
yeah,
But B, you just don't do people dirty because people hear about that stuff.
yeah.
And that's just, you got to have integrity and and just be honest.
Hmm.
Um, so that was kind of the first kind of throwing myself into the business.
Hmm.
And then I would say,
So you basically you get in, you cold call your way and network your way into a great firm where you have the opportunity now to work in commercial real estate or just real estate in general. So like, how did you decide on commercial real estate? I mean, because in real estate we got industrial, we got commercial, we got retail, you got
so let
residential. So how did you?
so yeah, I just knew commercial real estate was the space to be in from what other wealthy people were telling me,
Right. So you got
um,
exposed to wealthy people
through the
and
financial advisor.
matching. Okay.
And then so also I figured out, hey, we don't really think about commercial real estate. It's not talked about in the black community at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about like on your grandma's house or that's like the furthest conversation I ever had in real estate. Like my grandmother, her claim to fame, was she owned her home, right?
Hmm.
So that's a big deal in the black community. Like she owned her home for free and clear. Like she ain't have a mortgage on it, no loan, and like well, growing up, like that was her. That was she ain't own no stock. She ain't had no other type of investments, but she owned her home. So that was like
Free and clear.
that was her wealth in
Hmm.
terms of what she can pass down to her family and her children. But like the idea of us owning a shopping center or us owning a multifamily unit that got 50 units or what,
I
no,
had I had no idea that that was even a possibility too.
yeah,
And I'm coming from a household that the guy, my dad made it, but he didn't have that. That stuff's not talked about, so we don't know.
hmm,
If he would have known, I'm sure he would have invested much better,
yeah,
and they would have been in a different situation entirely.
hmm,
But also coming out of college, I'm $100,000 in debt. I need to turn it on,
right,
um, and I need to figure it out. $100,000 in debt, and on top of that too, my student loans were not being paid because for whatever reason, it was between me and how they were supposed to get paid, they weren't being paid.
right,
So I had I want to say like a 480 or 500 credit score
mm,
too, on top of $100,000 in debt, starting in the business.
wow,
In my
yeah.
first year.
That's why you hey, you hungry. You come in with 400. I'm with a 400 credit score and $100,000 in debt at what like 22,
I'm
23.
20. Yeah, I'm 20. I'm 21, 22 at the time.
21, 22, $100,000 in debt, 400 credit score, no money essentially, but a bunch of hustle and a bunch of drive.
Shitload of hustle.
Hmm.
And just I always set very lofty goals,
Hmm.
and that's something too that I think is very important. You got to set your goals, and take a long-term mindset with it.
Hmm.
Set your, hey, what's my year goal? What's my 3-year goal? What's my 5-year goal? What's my 7, 10, 20, 50-year goal?
Hmm.
And then you break that down. Hey, what's my monthly goal? What's my weekly goal?
Right.
What's my daily goal? And when I came into the business, they said, hey, you need to make. I think it was they said you need to make 50 calls a day. You
Right.
need to set up at least 5 meetings a week, and you'll be successful here. And
Right.
so when I came into that, I was also like, okay, they're telling me I need to set up, make 50 calls, the 5 meetings. I think the 5 meetings is more meaningful, but the touches on the phone and the conversations I'll have, those are really meaningful too.
Right.
So, I have this like 150% rule where
Right.
whenever I think that there's a task or whatever that's like the quota to do,
Hmm.
I'm trying to do 150% of that.
Right.
So
And that's your standard, right?
that's
Like
my standard.
if somebody set you a standard at 100%, you like, okay, I got to do 150 to please my personal standard.
Exactly, because I couldn't fail. Like I
Right.
was like, I'm not failing in this. I don't have an option. I
Hmm.
need to, get bring my family financial freedom.
Hmm. And at
Um,
this point, the firm you're working with, are you getting a huge salary or like how's the
s-
compensation? Like how
so
are you
it was
compensated?
set up where I got a stipend. I got
Hmm.
3 G's a month.
Right. Just barely enough to live. Especially
Barely.
in DC, is pretty expensive, right?
Yeah, cost of living is expensive, but I mean, I was fortunate enough to stay at my parents'
Oh
home.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you know
But
that's pretty good.
I'll say this too. We had a hardship, so we had to sell our house. My parents' retirement was gone.
Hmm.
We were renting a house and yeah, kind of trying to keep up appearances too.
Yeah, because
Which
if you start at a like what a lot of people don't understand is this is why exposure is so important. When you get exposed to a certain lifestyle or a certain income or a certain car or whatever, it's like it's no going back from that. Like you can't backtrack. Like if you grow up in the burbs, the idea of going to live in a neighborhood where it's not at least up to par to where you grew up at, you feel like you downgraded. So that's a huge hit to your self-esteem.
hmm
And some people they ball up in the corner and never get out of that. But
hmm
some people could, like yourself, can get motivated by that and take that same hunger and do something productive with it.
hmm I literally saw, hey, there's seven-figure earners in this business.
Right.
I want to be that. How do I get to be that?
Mhm.
And so, literally, it's just if they're telling me I need to set up, 5 meetings in a week, I'm setting up at least eight.
Mhm.
But really, I'm trying to set up, I'm trying to 2x everything.
Yeah.
So I came in there instead of 50 calls, I was making 100. I was making 100. Instead of 5 meetings, I was trying to hit 10.
Right.
But I was happy with 150% of it.
Exactly.
So I still set higher goals, and then when I landed in my 150, space to 200% of what the goal was, I
Mhm.
was happy.
Right.
And so that was, literally the first year. I literally ate, slept, breathed, and shat real estate.
Right.
That's all I did. So I worked 7 days a week, head down, and all I did was real estate.
Right.
So that again, and you've said this on your page before, but if you literally sacrifice 6 months of or a year,
Yeah.
and you're head down for that time, you can set yourself up for life.
Yeah.
And I did it in a business where I was able to set myself up for life.
Mhm.
So literally, came in the office 7:30, 8, 9, left at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night,
Mhm.
Monday through Friday, and then came in noon to 4, noon to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. So,
Yeah.
I had half days, but
Yeah.
I was working every single day. My friends were hitting me up, hey, let's go to brunch. Hey, let's go out. I'm like, nah, I'm in the office working.
Right.
And if you don't get it, then, I'll talk to you in a year,
Right.
and that's okay. So, did that, and then my first year, I made $120,000 in the
Right.
business.
And at this time you're 22.
I'm 22.
Okay.
I made
100,000 at 120,000.
120K,
Okay.
and that was my first year in the business.
And that's
it's
just
different.
basically working every day, stand down until you come up, hustle and bustle, going to work, being productive, not
Mhm.
out, spending your money. Because, I mean, you make 120 G's, you can for sure spend 120 G's.
Yeah.
It's easy to spend it.
But
And then you learn
I'm
that lesson with budgeting.
with the budgeting. I
Yeah.
had to manage my money properly
I like that.
because once I got it, I need to sustain it, and
Mhm.
also at that point you're 100% commission.
Yeah.
So it's literally eat what you kill,
Yeah.
and you're not making. You're only making when you close. So you're
Exactly.
making money when you close, and that's it. So that was year one. Year two, the mentor that I was working with, he wanted to build a business around us and have a whole team. And so that was, a goal of mine as well. And so we started building, and then the kind of issue of age, I think, came into play,
Yeah.
where he didn't see me as a true partner because of my age,
Yeah.
but I was doing a lot of the work. And so, I love the fact that I was in that situation where he, kind of just said, hey, yeah, if you can do as much as you want to do,
Yeah.
keep doing it. And so, I had a lot of the responsibility, and, was able to just grow and, basically the vertical on kind of learning in the business is tremendous. So, I was able to pick up everything and learn from A to Z how to get a deal done.
Right.
I was, training a team, and, everything was going great. Our team was doing well. But in that time too, he didn't see me as a true partner because of my age.
Exactly.
So, things didn't work out. I branched off, and that's when the Webb group at the time was created.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two guys that were working with us too, they were like, hey, you're the one who's putting in the hours and getting this thing done.
Right. So I wanna come follow your lead. Right.
Yeah.
You're the person who's really running the whole company. You just don't. You're just not the head. Right.
Yep. And so, that first year that was 2016. We finished as the top multifamily group in that DC office.
Mm-hmm.
And it must have been 24, 25 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But finished as the top team in the DC office. And I made a damn near $500,000 that year. I made $420,000.
Right. So 22 or 23, you make 100,000. 120,000.
120.
24, 25, you make $500,000. When
what was the difference?
Yeah. What was the
How
difference?
did I scale? It was the leverage. I figured out the 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
So literally 20% of the stuff that you do on a day-to-day basis makes up typically 80% of that income.
Right.
So I was able to figure out, okay, what's the value making touches of my day?
Yeah.
And for me, that was being in front of the client. So the cold calling took up a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it was essential to be able to get you in front of new clientele. And so I had a couple guys that, at the time that were working with me, and they were cold calling with me. So we were all making cold calls,
Mm-hmm.
but, now they're putting me in front of new clients, and it was set up in a way where you split the deal 50-50.
Right.
So, and I'm essentially running the whole deal. I'm meeting the client, getting the business, and then running the deal and then closing it.
Right.
They're making the money and learning along the way. But I think that was a great business model for me and them.
Yeah.
I also structured my team in a way where people could actually make money. So a lot of times when, new guys come on, teams are structured where, hey, I'm the value, you're coming to my team, you're going to just do what I say for a while. I'm going to keep you down in your space.
Right.
And basically leverage the shit out of you without you growing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to clone myself as many times as I can, to be able to just really delegate and leverage.
Right.
If there's 5 of me running around or 7 of me running around, then we can go from my income can go from 110 to 420, but I can also have people that are making 200,000.
Right. You don't want to be the only person in the office making $500,000. You want if you make $500,000, somebody else got to make 6 figures. So
exactly.
Everybody else in the office need to be hitting
Exactly.
6 figures.
So that first year, I think another big thing that I loved about it was that my junior, he was the top new agent that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was top new agent when I started. He was top new agent. And then
Mm-hmm.
that following year, it's a guy that works with me now. He was top new agent on the following year. And that
Mm-hmm.
following year, I continued to do everything I was doing to take me from, in the it's kind of smaller 6-figure range to the 420.
Right.
And then I was able to go from 420. I made $1.3 million in 2017.
Okay. And at that point, you're 26,
27.
27. Okay.
Yeah. And so, that was a year where I was like, oh, it's really hitting.
Yeah.
I also got a lot of notoriety in the marketplace at that time, being so young and a vice president and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was great. And it's just basically being able to, at that point, say, okay, let me keep going. Let me keep leveraging, and figure it out. But also in that time too, you're making great money, you're budgeting, you're saving, and you're also seeing as a broker, I'm like, hey, this is great money here. But how do I, these guys are my clients. I'm helping my clients at the same time go from, $2 million net worth or, $5 million net worth to, 10, 20, 30, so my clients are crushing it. And
Right.
We're doing it together, but I'm helping them kind of find the deals. I'm helping them, add the value. I'm giving them the playbook to do all that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that, and I think the value of being a commercial real estate broker is when I came into the business, everybody in that business are millionaires.
Yeah.
They're all millionaires, and they made their money in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all there, and they're sitting on real value.
Yeah.
And then two, it's seeing their playbook of how they did it. These guys, a lot of these guys did it the same way. And that's, you get into a property, you add value, you refi, and then you rinse and repeat.
What do you mean by add value? Give me an example of what adding value means.
So on a apartment, let's say it's a 10-unit apartment building, or let's say it's a 4-unit apartment building.
Okay.
Which you can actually buy. Everybody here can buy this through NACA financing. But actually, let me just give you the playbook of, hey, how somebody who's listening can go from, making $50,000 a year using NACA financing, and then growing and building wealth and kind of their path to financial freedom.
Right.
So NACA is a program that is, I love this program because you can get into real estate with no money down. There's no fees, like no origination fees, and there's below market interest rates.
Right.
The program's a little onerous where you gotta, takes a little bit of time to go through it. People, I would say typically it's like 6 months to go through this program. But it's, at the end of the day, if it's 6 months and they're teaching you financial literacy through the program,
right,
and about the process of buying your property. But if you can go through this program and you can buy a single family house, a 2-unit, 3-unit, a 4-unit.
Right.
I say everybody should buy a 2 to 4-unit apartment building, 2,
right.
3, or 4-unit. Why? Because when you buy a 2 to 3, 4-unit apartment building, you're able to live in one of the units and then you rent out the others.
Right.
So you can essentially set yourself up where you live for free and or live for free and make a little bit of extra money, on top of that.
Right.
So literally just by living and managing your property that you live in.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't know, and for people who don't know, I was a mortgage banker, so I learned this actually helping people on the residential side. When you are going to buy a property that has, let's just use 4 units because that's like the ultimate for residential, because after you get to 5 units, it becomes commercial. So let's just say the maximum is 4 units, and you're sitting and you're making $50,000 a year, and you say, I actually can't afford to buy that 4-unit property because the same 4-unit property, let's say that costs $400,000, but the 1-unit property in the area costs $150, right? I can afford the $150 because I only make $50,000 a year. But you actually can afford the $400,000 because they value, meaning the lenders, they look at the other properties and they use that as income to qualify you for market income, market rate. So if you can get $1,000 a month from each door and you're living for free, they're going to qualify you on that. And I don't know, it might be a percentage, it might be 90 or 80. I don't really know because I'm not really in the business anymore. But let's say they qualify you on 80% of each door. You can use that 80% of each door as income to qualify for the 400.
Exactly.
And you go get tenants, and that's how you do it. Okay, so
Exactly.
you recommend getting 2 to 4 units through the NACA program, and
NACA or FHA.
yeah,
FHA, anybody can do it, and it takes a little bit of time. I mean, it takes a lot less time. NACA is a process, but it's literally one of the best loan products that I've ever seen.
yeah,
because it helps people that that might not have that down payment get into a property and do it. And in DC, I think that they go all the way up to 1.3 or 1.4 million dollars is the max in DC.
Wow.
Which is nuts.
yeah.
But
Now is NACA a program that
it's
you
national.
can get in? Okay, it's a national program that you can get in through other financial instruments. So like I go to Chase Bank or I go to a local credit union and
No.
they have a NACA program, or you go directly through NACA.
You go directly to NACA.
Okay.
Everybody should literally Google, NACA financing. Google NACA financing, check them out, and set up your appointment.
Okay.
I have zero affiliation with it. I just love the product.
Right.
And I've literally sold like at the start of my career. When I'm hustling, bustling, selling anything and everything. But I sold 4 units, and in Southeast DC, Congress Heights, Anacostia, these submarkets, and a lot of the buyers were NACA buyers. And so they bought these 4 units at the time for probably in the $300,000 to $400,000 range.
Right.
And this was 6-7 years ago at this point. but they bought them in a 300 to 400,000 range. Again, they were able to qualify because they used the income on the other rental units that they weren't living in, and they used that towards their income on the income qualifications with NACA.
Right.
Why 4 units are good, but now those properties are worth $800,000, $700,000, $800,000 for these 4 units.
Right.
And they got into them for free. They're making $50,000 a year at the time. Still, now they're living for free.
Right.
Over this last 5-6 years, they might be making an extra $1,000, $500 to $1,000 a month, living for free. And at this point, they're appreciating with the market. So their properties are valued in the $800,000 range.
Right.
You buy it for $400,000, and that's another $400,000 of net worth.
Right.
So these people now have $400,000 plus net worth by buying this by buying these 4 units. And so real estate is going to continue to appreciate. That's an asset class. Or that's just an asset that's going to continue to keep going. Right. In my opinion, people are always going to need their shelter, and it's just going to keep going with the times. Right. So I think it's very smart to set yourself up, and young, old, get into it. If you're a little older, you're still appreciating with the market. 6 years is 6 years. You were 40, and then you're 50 now. You still came up. Different markets kind of grow and appreciate at different levels and different kind of timelines, but at the same time, still it's still consistent. So
now, how is the NACA program set up? Because I know, like, with residential, you got FHA loans, you got VA loans, you got conventional loans, and conventional loans are a lot. Their rules are a lot lenient compared to an FHA and compared to a VA, and then you get into USDA loans. I mean, it's almost some properties are virtually impossible to get a USDA loan or FHA loan on, simply because, like, for example, a lot of people don't know this. You can't get an FHA loan with a house next to a gas station because for some odd reason back in the day, a lot of FHA homes were not being insured by gas stations. So now whoever's funding these FHA loans, their investment is exposed. Even if the house never blows up, it still is exposed to that potential risk. Right. That's too risky for the government to do the loans. So you can't get a FHA loan next to a gas station. Or, like, let's say you're doing some value add, like you talked about, you buying a property that needs $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, and it can't pass a regular appraisal or inspection. It's going to be a lot challenging to get that FHA loan compared to a conventional loan. They just want to make sure you can afford the property, and the rules are a lot lenient. So with NACA, what would you say are the rules more lenient, like a conventional, or are they more stricter, sort of like an FHA?
So NACA, I don't believe that they provide, money to fix up the property. Yeah. I've never personally gone through it. I've only sold to people that have done it, and I've seen, where the properties are now. Right. One thing that I guess something good that you touched on is adding value. And I want to get into that. So, what is adding value? Adding value at the end of the day is increasing the net operating income of a property. Right. And so it's called NOI, net operating income. Right. And so you have your rent, and that's your gross rent and your effective gross rent. And then you have your operating expenses. Right. And basically NOI is rent minus your operating expenses. Right. And you can increase the value of a property by growing that bottom line NOI number. Right. And so, basically you can do that in a couple of different ways. Hey, can I operate the property more efficiently in terms of, like, slicing some of those operating expenses? Can I add value in terms of maybe adding a bedroom or something like that to these units? Or can I increase the rent somehow?
Now, how do you add another bedroom? Because people hear that and they think they got to build onto the house. How do you do that? What qualifies as a bedroom?
So in DC, it's a 10x7 space with a window and a closet. Right. And so if there's unused space, or maybe you take part of the living room, if it's a very large living room, and you can turn an extra, you can make an extra bedroom there. Right. But it's just finding more space in a unit. to build another bedroom, and just it has to meet those qualifications.
Okay.
And those are just basic qualifications. That's for DC
Yeah,
proper.
that makes a lot of sense. I can see how you can add value because let's say you buy it and you think it's 3 units and it's potentially four. So now,
So per the zoning, you might be able to add an extra unit.
hmm
Um, People do that, and they'll build on top. But in terms of the adding extra like bedroom or something like that in the space, you just gotta walk it, and I'd probably walk it with a contractor.
hmm
Get a contractor you trust, and I'd probably interview a few different contractors.
hmm
But get somebody that's in the space that's doing it. I also think it's very important to have mentors
hmm
in your business. I mean, literally you're the average of your 5 closest friends,
hmm
and you want to just literally surround yourself with people that are have the same mindset and go in the same places.
Right.
Because when you get influenced and when you're around other people that aren't with it, then they're not with it. That's their path. You can still love them from afar, but that's their path. Let them do that.
Right.
You focus on getting you, and and building yourself up. But yes, mentorship's also huge too. Find somebody in your space or in the space that you want to be in that's doing it
hmm
and that's proven, and try to get as many of those people as you can. Like,
Right.
Me, I have mentors that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
And these are my mentors, like, because they've been doing it for a long time.
hmm
They've made a lot of mistakes too, and they give me some seeds that and jewels that have kind of they're so valuable because they've allowed me to not make huge mistakes that end up costing me a lot and just set me back a little bit.
Mentors and getting it right around the right people is like the cheat code in life.
It really
I
is.
really like. I done met so many different people, and I feel like you're supposed to have different mentors in different areas. Like,
Hmm.
if I wanted to build a $1 million clothing brand, even though you're successful and wealthy, like you're probably not the guy to come to for that advice because it's like, that's not my lane, and I stay in my lane, so I will go to somebody else. But if I want to build a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, specifically with commercial, I know who to call, right? I'm
Hmm.
calling my guy Cam. Hey Cam, I got this amount of money. I'm trying to do this. Where do I get started, right? And I think people think, you know, you have to have one mentor and just stick with that. No, you should have many pocket mentors and say, hey, you're a mentor in this. I mean, you're an expert in this space. This is something you can help me with. You're an expert. Even if I pay for your services, or we have some type of barter system or relationship where I can add value to you, you add value to me,
Hmm.
and we work together on that. I think it's very important to network and be able to add value to people, not looking for something in return, but in return, people is reciprocity. People want to give to people that's giving to them.
Hmm.
You gave to me, you provide me knowledge, I connect you with people who I think can help you in your business. I'm
Hmm.
not looking for nothing back from that, but in turn, because I helped you, now you want to help me, and because
Exactly.
you helped me, now I want to help you. So I think,
And we grow together.
yes,
Everybody can be successful.
and it's
Let's
so much
empower
money.
everybody around
It's
us.
so much money out here, man, and we have to focus on growing together because we can go so
So
far
much farther.
together. And so what's one way you would say that you're able to get mentors and get people and become attractive to somebody who will want to mentor you? Because that's one thing, you got to be coachable, you got to be
Gotta be
willing to
coachable.
listen, and that's one thing I run into. People want the lifestyle, they want the net worth, they want the millions, but they're probably not willing to work 365 days and turn their friends down to
Hmm.
go to brunch and
Hmm.
things like that. So like talk about that and being coachable and being willing to learn.
So if people hit me. I don't even have that big of a following on social media,
Right.
but I still get hit up, and on LinkedIn and even on social media. And so something that for me, when it says okay, yeah, like I do want to work with this person,
Mhm.
um, is I got to see that they're coachable, and I got to see that fire in them.
Mhm.
If you're coachable and you have that fire in you, there we can do something.
Right.
And so, like, I might not pick up on the first call, or I might not like hit you back, but if you're consistently in my face,
Mhm.
um, then I'm like, okay, this
So
person's committed.
don't take it personal if you hit up
Do
a
not take it.
multimillionaire or somebody who's killing it in their industry.
People do that all the
And
time,
yeah,
and they're
man.
and they're just like, oh, like a friend of mine, for instance, like, he didn't want to work with another guy that was in the space that he wanted to be in,
Hmm.
and he was self-made, multimillionaire, crushing it, and he was like, oh no, fuck him, he didn't hit me back,
Yeah.
when I was coming out of college. It's like when you were coming out of college, he didn't hit you back, like. No, he's not worried about you. Like,
Right.
you need to continue to put yourself in front of them. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But that's not your only person either. You need to hit up multiple people that are doing it,
Yeah.
and just be on it. If you wanna do something, you gotta fully commit. Throw yourself into that. A lot of people just they try, they get rejected a couple times, and then it's game over.
Hmm.
And then they move on to the next thing. Same shit.
Right.
And it's a pattern, because literally, like, you just got to understand that you're going to fail.
Right.
Failure is a part of the game. Failure is how you grow and how you make it to the next level.
Hmm.
Without failure, there's no real prospering.
Right.
I failed way too many times, like, just not way too many. Apparently it's, I was
Yeah, but you
successful.
failed so much that if you failed 100 times and you succeed 10, people are only going to look at the 10 and say, "Wow, that guy Cam's the luckiest guy. James the luckiest guy. They're succeeding at what they're doing." And it's like, no, you haven't succeeded because you haven't failed enough. So when people always ask me, how I'm trying to start a business, I'm trying to do this, but I don't know what to do, I'm like, well, you need to get out and fail. Because what a lot of people don't know about me with social media, bro, I spent like $15,000 failing at trying to grow a social media page. I learned so much that first year of what not to do, what I need to do, who I need to connect with, seeking out mentorship. I learned so much to the point where, the next year when I started Black Millionaires, I was ready to grow, and I was ready, and I was open to learning, and I had learned so much over the last 12 months to 18 months failing, that I was destined for success, because it's like you keep knocking on the door, eventually somebody's going to come and answer, and that's the only opportunity you need to double, triple, quadruple your income. But most people, they stop on that first or third knock, and they're like, "Oh, that guy's he's big time in me. He DM'd me, or I DM'd him and he read my message and didn't see it." I have plenty of people, man, I reached out to when I had 50K, and they're just like, whatever. And they saw me grinding, and they saw me get to 100, 200, 300, building my brand. And now they're like, all right, come on, let's do a live. Let's do this. And I'm like, I could have been like, no, I'm straight, bro. And I don't deal with you. I ain't working with you. No, I'm going to actually say, you know what? Maybe I wasn't ready then. Maybe
Facts.
they wanted to see if
Facts.
I was going to be consistent.
Facts.
And now I'm consistent, and now I'm ready for the opportunity.
Facts. Literally, like, a similar thing happened with another friend of mine who hit me up, and she was like, "Hey, I want to do a business with you, and will you come in? We'll go 50-50 on it, and you can be the money, and I'll do the business."
Right.
I'm just like, you haven't done any business.
Yeah. You don't have nothing to
Yeah.
lose. You have
I'm
no
like,
skin
I'm
in the
like,
game.
nah. Like, I'd rather see you do it and then come back
And come and be
maybe,
the money.
and then maybe I'll invest and kind of help you scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did the business and was successful. And then literally, now I'm talking to her, and I'm just like, hey, how do we really scale this thing?
Right.
Like, I'm ready to go. So people literally, if you don't get the yes the first time, maybe you're not ready for that
Right.
partnership. Maybe you're not ready for that business partner there.
Yeah.
So. But you got to you got to move forward, be super committed to your craft and super committed to it. It's going to, take you, very far.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this too, because people see you, or people might be listening to this and they're thinking like, "Hey, this guy's a multimillionaire. He's young, he's black. He's out here killing it. He has to be spending $1 million, $2 million a year on his lifestyle, living on yachts and boats." And just knowing you, it's like you can be living 10 times larger than you are, and you still are living, below your means based on
Based on the income.
based on the income and the things you do in business. Like, what's the thought process behind that? Because a lot of people, they don't think you are earning money or making money if you're not showing it. And that's a
Hmm.
big problem in our community.
It
If
really
you ain't got
is.
a Lambo, then are you really rich? Because most people who make money go get a Lambo. So
Hmm.
what's your thoughts on that?
That's the new money versus old money mentality too. Um, and so a lot of new money, they go out and spend that money.
Hmm.
Whereas the old money, just they've been there. It's not their first day at the party. Um, and so for me, I'm new money still.
Hmm.
I'm all, like, I guess my dad made it, upper middle class, but lost it. And I have made it, and I'm here to stay.
Hmm.
And so for me, I'm still the same guy I was in college and in high school. I
Hmm.
haven't really changed. I just, got really good in a certain industry and a job, and I've had a lot of success there.
Hmm.
But I'm still the same guy. I go to the bars and go to the clubs. I don't buy tables.
Right.
Like, I don't do that stuff. I don't buy a lot of brand brand clothing and stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of the stuff I wear like just regular stuff. I got a couple nice things. I got a nice watch that I bought, and I have a nice house now.
Hmm.
I have a nice car. But I buy the things that I think add value for me,
Hmm.
and just kind of how I want to live. But I'm not doing it for other people. I'm not doing it to kind of just be showy. I'm doing it because I want to. I have financial freedom now,
Right.
and also I'm doing it because I want to keep building and keep growing.
Right.
If I'm making 100, if I'm making $1 million a year,
Right.
and my cost of living is maybe 100,000 at this point,
Right.
but then I'm also being able to save, a shitload of all that money on top of my cost of living.
Right.
So at that point, it's going back into the business and going back into, just that kind of wealth building and that wealth preservation for me.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's the way you do it. That's how you keep it.
Hmm.
Um, you know, again, with the culture in our society, people don't think you got it unless you're flaunting it.
Yeah.
And I don't really care. I don't really need
Yeah.
people to know
Yeah.
that I have it either, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess for me, it's kind of been a struggle in terms of how I want to portray myself
It's a
with social
delicate
with
dance.
social media.
Yeah, it's a delicate dance because it's like when you start to make money, it start to show.
Hmm.
Like it start to show in the things you do and the things you acquire, and that can go to the extreme. I didn't seen it. I didn't seen it go to the extreme. When I started my business in 2020, I was just working a regular job. Making 50 grand a year. Plus commission. On the top of the things I earn and eat and kill. But I'm making 50 grand a year, and um, I started making $50,000 just with my business. So now I'm making 50 grand a year, going to work 40 hours a week, and I make $50,000 with a business, and I don't need any of that money. So
Hmm.
most people think I'm gonna upgrade my car. I'm gonna go get a condo downtown in Atlanta. I'm gonna go on these lavish trips, and guess what I did? I didn't do anything. I
Hmm.
started investing that same $50,000 back into the business, and then that 50 turned into 100.
Hmm.
So what do you think I'm doing with the 100? I'm investing that back into the business. I'm not changing my life, and I was able to quit my job and put myself on salary and keep my same lifestyle.
Hmm.
Now, if the business, let's say the business slows down and it don't go from 100 to 200 to a million, that's not going to affect my life.
It's not. And also, if you get some good real estate too, you're then able to make money residually. So
Exactly.
for me, I want to set up it's setting up a business where I can residually replace my income,
Mhm.
on the brokerage side. So, if I can make, that type of money residually without doing anything, then that's something I can also just pass down to, my family.
Right.
And I think that's the key, and that's real wealth, and that's real financial literacy, and that's also real, just like, financial freedom.
Mhm.
So I think that's a huge thing, and I think that we didn't finish the conversation on how to make it. I think we got into, hey, how do you finance it?
Yeah.
But NACA, you finance it with NACA.
Mhm.
If you, it's or FHA, you put down 3.5%,
Mhm.
and then you add the value. So you're looking for properties that you can add. It basically increase that net operating income,
Mhm.
and then you refi them. So you go to another lender, you go to a conventional lender at that point, and you say, hey, I've increased my NOI from 50,000 to 100,000. What they do is they take it on a cap rate basis and a debt coverage ratio, and they do an appraisal, and then they take that new value that you just created. So maybe I turned, a I don't know $400,000 property into a $1 million property. Now I'm able to go back and leverage 75% of it, or the lender just needs to be able to coverage basically 1.2 times of what the debt is.
Right.
So basically, if on a $100,000 net operating income, they need to be able to cover, or let's say it's $120,000 net operating income, the debt that they can put on it is $100,000.
Right.
So that's basically how they're able to qualify it as, okay, now it's $1 million property. But they basically, you do that, you add the value, you refinance, and then you do it again. You don't get taxed on that money from the refi because it's technically a loan. So I'm pulling out all my principal, and I'm pulling out the value add that I did. So if I turn a $400,000 property into $1 million property, I take 75% of leverage or debt on that. Then that's $750,000 minus $400. I can technically take damn near $350,000 that I just created on my deal, and then go and take that and put that into a new deal.
Right. Okay. So hold on. If I buy a $400,000 property, add value to it, now it's worth $1 million.
That's a big jump too, by the way.
Well, okay. Let's do better numbers. Let's do better numbers. I buy a $400,000 property, and I take it to $500,000. Okay, so that's a 20% value add. That's very doable, right? And I'm in $400,000, and I added $500,000. Now I take the money out, and I don't get taxed on any of that money I take out.
No, so you can take out 75% of the $500,000.
Right.
And then that's technically debt. So you're paying interest on it as debt, but then you take that, you might be paying, 4% interest on that money, but then you're able to take that money and put that into a new deal, do the same thing, and you're always focused on I'm always looking at cash on cash return.
Right.
But I'm able to take that money, put it into a new property, buy that property, and then this property is still generating passive income for me, and now I do it again, and it's rinse and repeat over and over again.
Right.
That's how these guys build multi-million-dollar portfolios in real estate.
Right, because they're working with hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of dollars.
And it grows every single
And it
deal.
grows, and they're not paying taxes on this large lump sum of money. So now I can just take it, upgrade my lifestyle, or I can take it and upgrade my wealth.
Exactly.
And just keep rinsing and repeating.
Exactly.
And then if I wanted to upgrade my lifestyle,
you do it
I done bought 3, 4, 5 different assets. So now it really doesn't matter if I go get a new car or a new watch or something, because I'm 4 flips in before I did that.
And the residual income is paying for it.
Right.
That's true financial freedom. I'm not buying a new, car or something like that.
With your first flip.
No, I'm doing it after, if the car payment's $400 plus another $100 in insurance, or $200 in insurance, then I'm waiting until I'm making, the amount that covers my rent or my mortgage, my cost of living, and then B, I'm doing it. Okay, I can afford this new car because my residual income is doing that for me.
Yeah.
And that's the key, in my opinion. And that's true financial freedom.
We had a conversation about finances, and I think like this. And I definitely want you to explain it a little deeper, because we talked about it. When you said most people need to think in terms of percentages of their money, and having, like, for example, a certain percentage of car, a certain percentage of house, a certain percentage of other things like liabilities or living expenses compared to your income. That's a different perspective, because a lot of times when people are making $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year, and let's say $40,000 a year, you're probably bringing home probably 30, right? You're not really seeing all of that money. So if you go out and buy $30,000 a year, so you're not seeing all that money. If you go out and buy a car that's $500 or $600, that's a large percentage of the money that you're bringing home, that you're actually seeing. So this is why when we say financial literacy and stay down until you come up, this is what we mean. So could you explain that, like the percentages?
So for me, my car payment, I like to stay within 3 to 5% of my annual income.
Mm-hmm.
It's different for people, but I don't think it should be. I think it should be 10% or less.
Yeah.
Um, the more money you make, I think the smaller the percentage should be.
Right. So if you're making
But
3,000, the maximum you should be paying for your car, 3,000 a month. The maximum you should be paying for your car is roughly $300.
yeah,
That makes
yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly.
But then if you're making 300,000, you don't want to, you obviously the percentage is gonna go down. Might be 5 or it might
Right,
be 3
right.
because you don't
Stay,
want
yeah, stay within 10%
Mm-hmm.
on your car, and you'll be in a great situation.
Mm-hmm.
But your house and your rent, that should come first. I'm really saving up for like a house before I'm buying another car,
Yeah.
or just like really not a house, but I'm saving up for that 2 to 4 unit
Mm-hmm.
before I buy that car. So, you need to have your priorities straight.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's going to continue to build me and build my wealth and kind of help take care of help maybe take send my kids to college.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, yeah, I want to have a nice car, a nice whip that I drive around in because it makes me feel good, and I can afford it at that point.
Right.
So it's percentages, and I think of that in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's really big, man. Because when you start thinking in terms of amounts, like I had a conversation with a young lady. She's like, "Oh, it's only $400 a month," and I'm like, "You're using that word only very loosely because you can only yourself into a bunch of credit card
mhm.
and debt and all type of debt because only $400. Okay, let's look at that $400. That's 20% of your income. That's 15% of your income, right? So if I tell you to say out loud, I'm about to spend 10% of my income on this new car and I ain't got no savings. Yeah, that sounds kind of stupid, right? But when
Really
you say it's
stupid.
only $400, now that you kind of rationalize it, right? And I think
Mhm.
just stay down until you come up. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses for a rainy day, and once you do that, you should just be aggressively investing. So, what's your thoughts on that? Because people talk about saving, 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 but it becomes a point where saving becomes counterproductive.
Yeah.
So,
I
when
I
should you
s-
start investing?
I saved for too long before
Yeah.
I put my money to work.
Hmm.
But I think how I operate right now is I put my money into just like low risk. It's a lot of it's in the stock market in a low risk place.
Hmm.
So it's just in like the Johnson and Johnson and like the blue chip stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and so I use that as my checkings account in a sense, or my savings account.
Right.
Um, and every single year I put a certain amount of money basically into my checkings where I can just operate for the
Yeah.
year. And then everything else is on the investment side. But you gotta, I would say, have your 3 to 6 months saved up, and then everything on top of that, you should really just be investing,
Hmm.
and make that work for you.
Right.
Everybody should also download a compounding interest calculator.
Hmm.
I tell a lot of my friends and family to do that, but you would be amazed at literally putting in $10,000 a month, or I mean, I'm sorry, $10,000 a year into a kind of a brokerage account
Hmm.
that's making 7 to 10% a year in returns. And if you do that for 10 years straight or 20 years straight,
Hmm.
look at that number. Again, download Compound Interest Calculator,
Hmm.
and I put in, if I add $10,000 every single year, and I'm making either 7 to 10%, what does it look like 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road?
Hmm.
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars is what it is.
Yeah.
So, I think that people should definitely download that and then play with it and set your saving goal.
Hmm.
What's realistic to you? And then I would have fun with it, but stick to it.
Yeah.
And be very, very disciplined in paying yourself.
Hmm.
So many people don't do that. So pay yourself.
Yeah. Now, Cam, man, you definitely dropped some good gems. So, before we wrap up, I'm 20 years old, 25 years old, or even 30 or 40 years old, making 40, 50 grand a year, which is around the average. And I'm trying to change my financial future, right? What are 3 things you would say it could be mindset shifts, it can be investments or whatever. What are three things you would do as a young adult or somebody who's just really trying to change their financial future? Like, what are three tips you can give people to change their financial future?
Well, the first thing I would say is, just remember you're the average of your five closest friends.
Hmm.
So build that network around you of people that are moving in the same direction, have the same goals, and then have your mentors in place.
Hmm.
That's one. Two, I would say set your goals. Have that long-term mindset. Set your goals. Hey, what's my 1 year? What's my 3 year? What's my 5 year? What's my 10 year?
Hmm.
Where do I see myself? What's my 20 year?
Right.
And then, monthly, where do I need to be? Weekly, where do I need to be?
What do I need to
Daily,
do?
what do I need to do? And, you're going to have days that you don't crush it. And I have days that I'm just really unproductive.
Hmm.
And I hate, I kind of sit there, I'm like, damn, like I hate that. But it's going to happen. It's
Hmm.
life. And also in that too, and I think that everybody should set certain goals. They should set a financial goal. They should set a mental health goal, and they should set a physical health goal.
Hmm.
You can get caught up and really bogged down in one space, but if you don't have balance, you don't have true happiness, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I would say is just fully commit yourself to the craft. Like you can't half-ass this.
Yeah.
If you want to, really kind of change your life forever, commit to it
Hmm.
and throw yourself into it 120 fucking percent.
Hmm.
If you do that, then, I think that, I don't know. If you do that, I just think that you need to have thick skin with it as well. But if you do that, then I think there's a very high likelihood that you're gonna make it in
Hmm.
that, or you're gonna learn a shitload, and you might fail, but you've like, at least learned it. You've done it and you've tried it, and you know that might not be for you, but you might have found something that is.
Right.
So fully commit to it, and then I'll give you the last a fourth one, which I
Hmm.
think is super imperative, which is time management.
Hmm.
You really need to understand the value of your day. There's 24 hours in a day.
Hmm.
You can't do everything. So focus and make use out of like literally every single moment. We don't have that. Life goes by fast, and you don't want it to pass you up. So whether it's have it and be in business, but also have love, and always tell people you love them, and have that side of it too.
Hmm.
We are human beings. We have emotions. Everything goes up and down. Again, that's kind of goes hand in hand with like the mental health part of it. But use your time wisely, and put love out in the world.
Cam, man, self-made millionaire at 26, multimillionaire at 30, a real estate advisor. Man, I really appreciate you coming out here and coming to the studio. A lot of people don't know. Cam came down here, man. We've been chopping it for the last few days, man. Learning a lot, exposed me to a lot, and I got a few steps I know I need to take, and some things I said I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you some updates on that. We're gonna work on a few things later. Tell people how they can connect with you on social media. You on Instagram? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram. It's Cam Webb 2.
Hmm.
And then I'm on LinkedIn too. You can look me up, Cameron Webb. So, again, thank you for having me on here. I love what you're doing and just normalizing this financial literacy conversation in the Black community.
Hmm.
I think that there's a very bright future ahead for us as a
Hmm.
community. And I'm here as, at your disposal on the real estate stuff.
Hmm.
If you want to hit me, find me, and, let's keep going. Let's keep grinding.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to James Hill TV. I'll see you next week.